So I want to share with you what it's like to work with the freeze trauma response within your capacity and what happens when you start working with the freeze trauma response outside of your capacity. So we're going to understand capacity, what it looks like, and I'm going to give you an exercise to start building your capacity for safety if you're working with freeze. I'm going to explain why we want to start with building capacity for safety. So I have a lot to share with you. That being said, let's dive in. For those that don't know me, my name is Michele. I'm a somatic experiencing practitioner and the founder of the School of Transformation, which I consider to be like nervous system rehab. As a trauma survivor myself, I know exactly what it's like to have to rewire your whole nervous system so that instead of staying stuck in protection, you can step into authenticity and connection. And I teach everything that I learned along the way in the School of Transformation. So if you're looking to do the inner work to heal in a community, I invite you to check out the School of Transformation. There's currently a 30% off sale, giving you 7 to 9 meetings each month for only $77. Here's the link for you to check it out. Okay, so first, let's understand what capacity is. So in somatic experiencing, we talk about capacity as being your ability to stay within your window of tolerance, to stay emotionally grounded, even when memories come up or the story of the trauma comes up or an emotion or sensation from the past. That unhealed trauma, when it comes up and we're in our capacity, we're able to be with it. We're able to hold space for it and still stay grounded. When we're outside of our capacity, when a thought comes up from the past or somebody does something that reminds our nervous system of the trauma, we wind up in an emotional flashback. We wind up extremely dysregulated. Some people describe it as having a shame hangover. So what's happening is the emotion from the unhealed trauma, whether it's shame, whether it's fear, abandonment, loneliness, guilt, anger, whatever the emotion is that's attached to whatever piece of unhealed trauma is coming up, if we don't have the capacity to be with that emotion, the emotion feels like it's drowning us. We become extremely dysregulated. And so something that is important for us to understand is that if our capacity is low, then it doesn't matter what we're going through. It's not just the unhealed trauma that we're going to struggle to be able to be with, but even everyday stress. And so part of the goal with healing isn't about blocking off the trauma as if it didn't exist and plowing through life. No, it's about building our capacity to be with that. And so as our capacity grows, then we're able to hold more emotion. We're able to be with things that come up in our body without getting flung into dysregulation. So view capacity very much like somebody that starts to work out is building strength to hold more physical weight. We're building strength to hold more emotional weight and story. And just like somebody that's working out, if you want to lift 150 pounds, you don't start lifting 150 pounds, you start with 5 pounds, you start with 10 pounds, or you find your capacity. 5 pounds might be too light, so you find what feels comfortable with, you do that consistently, and then your strength grows and you can take on more weight. That's what we want to do emotionally as well as we're working with unhealed trauma. If we take on too much too fast with our nervous system, especially if you struggle with the freeze trauma response, you guys know you're either going to feel overwhelmed, you're going to feel triggered, you're going to feel re-traumatized, and then the freeze, it is going to amp up its strength and it's going to make you feel like you literally have no control over your body because your freeze trauma response can override you, your conscious self. So we don't want to fight against our freeze trauma response as if we have to strong arm it, because guess what? We will lose. But rather, we want to work with our nervous system, not against it. And that's why we use that word so much. I probably said it so much already in this video, but capacity, that's where capacity comes in. And the reality is that anyone with unhealed trauma has a smaller capacity because our nervous system is already so taxed with carrying the heavy load of the unhealed trauma from the past. That's why it's not just the trauma that can overwhelm us, but everyday things. Sometimes my clients or people in the School of Transformation will mention, Michele, I can't even do regular day-to-day things. My body will freeze and not let me do anything. And so out of desperation, they'll try to shove their body and force themselves because we have to do things, right? We have to make a living. We have to take care of our kids. We have to do things, even though the freeze doesn't want us to. But forcing ourselves is very much like me going to the gym after I haven't gone in forever and trying to deadlift 200 pounds. I'm going to wind up hurting myself. So there's a better way to work with the body instead of against it. So let's get into that. So before I get into how to find your capacity, I want to share an experience that I went through when I was healing my nervous system. And the reason I want to share this is because at one time I thought I was working within my capacity and I wasn't. And I accidentally kept certain trauma responses, especially the freeze, stuck for a longer period of time just because I didn't understand it. So I'm hoping that through this experience, you'll be able to notice like, oh, that's what it looks like when we don't work within our capacity. So for my level 3 somatic experiencing training, we did the training in person and we work with our trauma. We can't just learn about trauma healing. We work with our trauma, the deepest traumas we have, while we're learning somatic experiencing. So I was working with very young trauma, pre-verbal trauma, things that happened before the age of 3. And they were connected to the belief I'm not safe and that people are dangerous. I'll just leave it at that. So anyway, what we were trying to do was work with my capacity to be with healthy self-protection because I would be in freeze. I would want to protect myself even by putting down a boundary, even by saying something, and my body just wouldn't go there because the freeze was so strong. So during the training, my instructor was like, she had me bring up the trauma in my mind, and then she was sitting about 10 feet from me and she's like, okay, how do you feel right now? Like, how comfortable are you with me? Right? Because that when that belief people are dangerous is on in the body, we're going to see life through that lens at that moment. So I was like, oh, I'm fine. So she was like, okay, can I come sit next to you? I was like, yeah, you could come sit next to me. So she comes and she sits next to me and she's like, how do you feel now? And I'm like, yeah, I feel good. I feel fine. She's like, can I put my hand on your back? I said, yeah, you can put your hand on my back. The whole time I thought I was fine. Now, once her hand touched my back, I realized at that moment I was a statue. I was frozen. I literally couldn't move. Now, she was an instructor. She could see that. And so she walked back to her seat and we started talking about how I was working with this trauma on my own. And what I was doing was bringing up exactly what we were doing together. I was bringing up the memories, the ones that I had, and I was noticing myself be in the freeze. But because there's no activation in freeze, I was thinking I was totally fine. My heart wasn't racing. I felt no activation. So I'm good. But she explained to me, Michele, you're actually going into freeze. And by continuing to bring it up, go into freeze, bring it up, go into freeze, you're actually reinforcing the freeze. So that really helped me to hit home like, oh, I need to find my capacity. And so we started pushing, like activating a healthy fight response. I couldn't do it. The second I would activate a fight response, I would go into freeze. It was outside of my capacity. So then she had me imagine it. She's like, okay, imagine standing up for yourself. Imagine putting down a boundary, whatever that looks like. See it in your mind. The second I would think about it, I would go into freeze. Then she told me, how far away can you visualize it for your body to feel safe? And I literally had to see myself exercising healthy aggression just by saying stop, right? 20 feet away, in order for me to not go into freeze. That was my capacity. I'm hoping that by sharing this, you're understanding like, oh, I can't just push myself through. I don't want to stay in a trauma response. I don't even want to bring it up. I want to actually interrupt it. That's our goal. So that being said, let's talk about finding capacity for safety. Okay, so if you're struggling with the freeze trauma response, one of the easiest ways to start building capacity without re-traumatizing yourself is to start building capacity for safety. And I know you might be like, Michele, I have so many things happening in my life. I need to deal with the trauma. I need to heal this trauma so that I can do the things that I need to do in my life. Trust me, I get it. Again, here's something that I had to learn the hard way was that freeze, it's not a lack of activation. It's that there's so much activation that the freeze is like on top of it. It's holding everything down. It's holding down fight or flight energy. And before we can work with all of that baggage, right, that emotional baggage, we have to build safety to be alive and to feel feelings. So starting to build capacity for safety is like going to the gym and lifting those 5 or 10 pounds to build the capacity to be with what's being held down by the freeze. If we try to work with all of that activation, it's going to overwhelm our system. Freeze is going to shut us down, and it will be harder to heal because our body's going to view us as the enemy. Take it from somebody that tried that approach. It doesn't work and it prolongs suffering. So when it comes to building capacity for safety, understanding what safety means is important. When our body feels safe, it is not in expectation of threat. And so there are places in our body that are holding the trauma from the past, and they are in expectation of threat. So any place in your body that is tense, tight, heavy, or disconnected or numb is in expectation of threat. Even when we have that in our body, there are still going to be places that are not in expectation of threat. And that's what we want to learn to find. So it starts with scanning our body and noticing some tension, and then finding a place that feels different. And then staying in that place and seeing, how long can I stay here? What happens when I stay in this place in my body that is safe, that is relatively still, neutral, or safe? I'm going to be honest, this video is longer than I intended, so I'm going to make another video. So in this video, I'm explaining it. In my next video, I'm going to give an exercise so you can experience exactly what I'm teaching. But I do want to let you know that doing this work alone can be very challenging. And the reason is, the second we notice any tension, our body can somatically time travel to the story that that tension is holding, and we can feel dysregulated. So if at any point you're doing any of these exercises and you're like, this is too much, this is too big, that's not a sign that you're doing something wrong, and it's not a sign that you're damaged beyond healing, but rather it's a sign that you need extra support, because that extra support is going to give your body the co-regulation it needs to be able to do these exercises. Now, that extra support you can get through one-on-one sessions with either myself or another somatic experiencing practitioner, or you can join me live weekly in the School of Transformation, where we do these exercises regularly together, kind of like a nervous system gym membership. So if you're looking for extra help to do this work, come join me live every week on Zoom. And don't forget to subscribe to this healing channel. My next video is going to be an exercise to help you to start building capacity for safety.